Testing. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ohayo. Very good morning. Okay, since there's no mediator or moderator, they asked me to just start. Okay, so let me introduce myself. My name is Helmi. I am from MIMOS. Okay, MIMOS is actually a government organization. It's a R&D organization which is actually funded by the Malaysian government, and we actually started 30 years ago from recommendation from 5 university professors. Okay, and this is our founding CEO, which is Professor Dr. Tengku Azman, and MIMOS was actually recommended to the previous Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir, and so he wrote a paper about moving from manufacturing into a knowledge-based economy. And in fact, Dr. Mahathir said give immediately $1 million to fund MIMOS, and within 1 year we actually created a 16-bit microprocessor, which at that time, you know, the microprocessors are 8085, something like that, 8-bit processor. And in fact, in 1991, essentially we moved from Prime Minister's Department into a Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation and Environment, and emphasizing in R&D and we actually assumed the role of IT policy development. So MIMOS, we actually recommended for some action plan in terms of the national IT agenda, and in fact from there we work with the likes of with Professor Kenichi Umai from McKinsey to recommend the multimedia support corridor. And in fact, actually, MIMOS, from there, MIMOS was actually incorporatized to become a company under the Ministry of Finance. We are corporate limited guarantee by the government, so our share is fully subscribed by the Ministry of Finance. And we have the mandate to develop R&D in ICT and microelectronics. And in fact, actually, we become a business organization. So after that, we start to stay away from business, and then we become internet service provider and so on. And we have very little publication and patent. So when the new CEO took over, okay, MIMOS ranking was something like I think 4,000 in the world in terms of publication and in terms of patent. And we are nowhere in terms of this one because we don't file any patent. So our organization is just like a university. People come and work, and then we give our IP as an open source. Okay. So in fact, the new CEO, which is actually his second job, and he is a student to Dr. Tengku Azman, he actually took over and take MIMOS to a new direction to become an industrialized organization focusing on intellectual property creation. Okay, and today MIMOS, our key research, we are focusing on big data analytics, the Internet of Things, nano semiconductor, and we have actually Tech Applied Research Lab focusing on this. And we have actually set up national facility for National Big Data Analytics Lab, Internet of Things Labs, Nano Semiconductor Fabrication and Prototyping and Reliability Lab. We have actually, we are a patent powerhouse for the country, and almost 50% of the country patent filing in WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, coming from MIMOS. And our commercialization rate is at 35%, because the country is commercialization rate is about 3%. So why we are 35%? Because we are applied research. We focus on the market requirement and market demand. We actually, last year we are ranked number 8 in the world in terms of government-funded R&D agency. We are globally, we are ranked 174 globally in terms of patent filing, and we are the third third best red dot design studio in the world. So our in our small outfit, actually we have created some economy about 1.2 billion ringgit today. Okay, this is our lab. I'm not going to go to too much detail, but in general, we are looking at what is the best opportunity to capture data. So we have actually the data collector, where we have focusing on the sensor. Then we have the data modeling. We have a lab, just mathematician, just focusing on trying to create the mathematical model. And we have actually the lab that process the data, the artificial intelligence lab, the advanced informatics, intelligent informatics, which is actually looking at the human psychometric analysis and so on. And we actually looking at how to enhance the user experience using the data. Then after that, we have the infrastructure in terms of advanced computing, the cloud computing and accelerator and so on, and the wireless communication. Last but not least, the information security lab, focusing on the data security. Okay, one of our role also, okay, which is currently I'm leading for the country, is actually to become the secretariat for the National IoT Strategic Roadmap. In 2015, the Malaysian Cabinet has actually the Malaysian Cabinet has actually approved the National IoT Roadmap, which is actually recommended by the industry. And in fact, this is our definition of IoT. Because there's in the world there are more than 30 definitions of IoT. Just for Malaysia, we like to contribute to the world also. What is IoT? We define is a smart connected device via the internet and seamlessly transmitting data to create new information and knowledge. So that means, let's say for example, if I have a smartphone, okay, and I read the QR code, and from that I go to the internet, to the cloud to get information, and then after that I contribute knowledge and information. That is actually also IoT. Okay, and in fact this is the IoT roadmap. This is what we are trying to do for the country. Actually, we are trying to create a national ecosystem to enable the use and the production of IoT application and services. And this is the KPI that we assign. We want to achieve 9.5 billion ringgit IoT revenue by year 2020. In 2014, it's about 771 million ringgit. So that means it's about almost 10 times growth, more than 10 times growth of economy or revenue. We want to create about 14,000 jobs, and then we want to create about 200 SME focusing on IoT. So in fact, actually we are focusing in 4 areas, and we have actually 5 strategies that we are looking at. Okay, but I don't want to bore the detail, because actually what I promised for this event is actually we want to show what do we do actually. Okay, but I think if you understand a little bit on where is the direction that we are going, then you understand what is our maturity level. In Malaysia, the maturity level for IoT is actually kind of low, because we are still in the process of digitizing our processes and so on. So we need to move from digitization into the data analytics and so on. So in fact, in MOSTI, the ministry that we are in, that we report to, essentially is MOSTI is driving the new economy. New economy is that the transition between from manufacturing-based economy into a technology-based or knowledge-based economy. And in fact, what we actually managed to plot a simple diagram. How does the IoT enable the bioeconomy, the nano-economy, the knowledge economy, and the social-based economy? And how does it help the agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, and societal market vertical? Okay, I think key thing is that a lot of people ask, okay, how do you move from 771 million ringgit into 9.5 billion ringgit? That is actually almost 12x growth. Okay, I think the key thing is that we should not be focusing, Malaysia should not be focusing on the components of the product, because for the fact that China is actually conquering that. Okay, so we need to accept the fact that China already have the industry 3.0, which is mass production. So they can produce better and faster and cheaper compared to Malaysia. Malaysia has lost that. So we are no more a mass production country anymore. So what we need to do is actually we need to move from component based into a service based. This is actually I think the key strength of for Malaysia and some of the country in this region, especially like Indonesia, Thailand and Singapore. So we are very good in terms of services. In fact, Malaysia is the pioneer in terms of financial services, Islamic banking, halal services, something like that, which is actually something that interestingly enough. In fact, I was talking to one of my friend who just came back from Japan yesterday, and he was telling me that halal industry is going big in Japan because the Olympic in 2020, because almost 40%, 38% of the Olympic participants is going to be halal. They look for halal food or halal services and so on. So the things that what we are trying to do is actually trying to move the industry into service based. Okay, how do we do that? And in fact, the most important thing is actually now, if you have to go into service based industry, you need to be a knowledge base. Okay, because we have to process the data that we collected from the sensor and so on. So this is the maturity model that we are that MIMOS developed. Okay, this is what we use this to measure the maturity model of the industry. Okay, so we have level 0 to level 4. In fact, actually, my CEO, Dr. Wahab, has asked me to modify this to help me know level 0, because level 0 is very negative. So people don't want to be level 0. So he asked me to change from level 1 to level 5. So anyway, I have to rewrite the manual of this, because once you put this maturity model, you have to write a manual so people can understand. But in the nutshell, what is this innovation maturity model? In fact, I will show you the example of applying this maturity model and how do we develop new application, new services and new innovation out of IoT based on this maturity model. Okay. First of all, is actually that how do we move from a data storage? This is where the first level of digitization to data collector. This is where the machine-to-machine wireless sensor network collecting the data and start to digitize the process. Okay. The second level is actually you start to process the data to become information. Okay. The next level is actually you start to process the information to create new information. You process information, create new information. Okay. And secondly is actually you convert the new information into knowledge. Okay. So it's a little bit boring. This one, maybe I can take you a simple example. Take the taxi services. Okay. Anybody take the taxi this morning? Yeah. Okay. Here in Malaysia, the taxi services actually is in, I think about 3 years ago, it's like gambling. You know why? Because during traffic jam hour, like this morning the traffic jam is terrible. You want to get a cab from, let's say from your home to come to downtown, you have to really negotiate. 3 years ago, you have to really negotiate. At some level that you have to, quote unquote, you have to pay extra to the driver. So you have to negotiate. Okay. So, but the things that with the advent of technology, communication technology, mobile technology, and in particular with the advent of IoT, without realizing it, actually IoT is already been applied. Okay, I think you guys know that IoT is not a totally new technology. It's a combination of many technology, many system, then it become a new system. So in terms of the taxi industry, okay, you can take for example the old days, the radio cab. When you call the radio cab, you book the taxi, key into the system, something like Excel worksheet, okay, I'm booking, something like that, you know. And then from there they will assign, okay, what's the available taxi. Next level is actually they have this airport limo. They have the one that the satellite antenna on top of the car, the big ball round things on the top of the car to collect where is the location of the car. Okay, and from there you just call the thing and then they can advise. Okay, this is where the car is going to take them. It's going to take the driver about 30 minutes to arrive to you. Next is actually, then this is Easy Taxi, which is actually a Brazilian company that created the apps, and in fact it's actually implemented here in Malaysia. And then it's a Grab, which is used to be My Taxi, a Malaysian company. Now it's actually in Singapore. I mean, previously in Singapore, after Malaysia they go to Singapore, they got about 100 million Sing dollar funded by the Singaporean VC. Then they went off to Australia Stock Exchange to be listed there. This is Uber. I think you know about Uber. Uber is actually some, okay. In fact, the recent IoT week, about 2 weeks ago, we invited Uber to speak in our event, and in fact, they were showing that how they use the data that they got from the taxi driver, and in fact, the way that you see, they are looking for new business opportunity. They are going beyond ride sharing or taxi. I guess based on what they are showing, they are going into connected car or driverless car. So that's the things that they will not admit, because it's a fact, their business plan, something like that. But the things that looking at the way that they're showing the data, how they process the data and so on, they are going into driverless car or connected car.
This Singapore going to